Some of the most chilling movies ever made didn't come from pure imagination. They were inspired by real-life monsters. Behind the characters we see on screen are true stories of terror, manipulation, and brutality. To rank them, we created our own hybrid horror index, a mix of body count and sheer brutality. With that in mind, here are the top 10 disturbing serial killers behind unforgettable movies. Number 10. Sylvia Likens case, which inspired the movie An American Crime, 2007. Sometimes the most terrifying killers are not strangers, they're caretakers. In 1965, police officers discovered the body of 16-year-old Sylvia Likens lying on a filthy mattress. She had died from a brain hemorrhage brought on by months of starvation and abuse. The tragedy began when Sylvia's parents paid Gertrude Banaszewski just $20 a week to care for Sylvia and her sister. Instead of offering safety, Gertrude subjected Sylvia to a nightmare of relentless beatings, starvation, and humiliation. What makes this case even more disturbing is that Gertrude didn't act alone. She encouraged her children and even neighborhood kids to take part in the abuse. Sylvia's death is still considered the most shocking case of child abuse in U.S. history. An American Crime brings this tragedy to the screen with Ellen Page as Sylvia and Catherine Keener as Gertrude. It doesn't rely on gore. The horror comes from knowing it all really happened in a regular home behind closed doors.
She needs to be punished.
How long until Sylvia's out of the basement?
Until she learns her lesson.
Number 9. The Zodiac Killer. The most terrifying killer in California history didn't just strike. He left puzzles behind. Between 1968 and 1969, the Zodiac Killer claimed at least 5 known victims. The first were David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, a teenage couple shot while sitting in a car on a quiet lover's lane. In another assault, college students Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were tied up near Lake Berryessa. Brian was stabbed but survived to tell the tale, while Cecilia later died from her wounds. From his hospital bed at Queen of the Valley, Brian gave a haunting interview, explaining how he tried to survive the Zodiac's brutal attack.
I considered him a robber. I had absolutely no thought that he was anything but that. And when we were at this robbery stage, I didn't consider any real threat to my life or to the girl or anything. I really didn't consider this, but I really wanted to help him.
And just days later, a reporter stood on a knoll overlooking Twin Oak Ridge, the very place where the couple had been ambushed, delivering a chilling editorial about the crime.
Saturday evening, Celia Shepard and Brian Hartnell, both in their early 20s, were sitting on this knoll of land overlooking part of Lake Berryessa. They thought they were alone, but there was a third man on this knoll, a man who wore a medieval-style executioner's hood, carried a knife and gun.
But the murders were only part of the horror. The Zodiac taunted newspapers with cryptic letters and complex ciphers, demanding they be published and boasting about the killings. Despite endless suspects and decades of investigation, his true identity remains a mystery. David Fincher's film Zodiac captures this chilling story, with Jake Gyllenhaal, Robert Downey Jr., and Mark Ruffalo portraying the journalists and detectives consumed by the case. Instead of relying on gore, the movie builds terror through obsession, paranoia, and the haunting reality that the killer was never caught. Number 8. Jack the Ripper, a legend of fear brought to film in From Hell, 2001. London, 1888. In the fog-filled streets of Whitechapel, fear spread as a faceless predator prowled the night. He would be remembered as Jack the Ripper, the man who brutally murdered 5 women, Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly. Each killing was more gruesome than the last, leaving the city in terror. As panic grew, taunting letters arrived at newspaper offices. The most infamous began with the words, "Dear Boss," signed with the name that would echo through history, Jack the Ripper. He mocked investigators, promised fresh horrors, and turned his crimes into a public spectacle. Despite countless theories and suspects, from surgeons to local residents, the killer's identity was never uncovered. The case remains one of history's greatest mysteries, a story of fear that refused to fade. The 2001 film From Hell, starring Johnny Depp, reimagines these events through Inspector Frederick Aberlein's eyes. It blends fact with speculation, capturing the paranoia, brutality, and unshakable dread of Victorian London. Number 7, Aileen Wuornos, a killer so infamous, Hollywood turned her story into monster, 2003. She was called America's first female serial killer, a drifter who turned Florida's highways into hunting grounds. Between 1989 and 1990, Aileen Wuornos shot and killed 7 men. She claimed they tried to assault her while she worked as a prostitute.
It was self-defense.
Yeah.
Well, the first one, perhaps, the second maybe, but
So what?
7 times?
So what?
But investigators called it cold-blooded murder.
But you've been convicted of killing 7 men.
Everybody's looking at the number.
Does that not... You
Why look
killed
at the
7
number?
men, 7 strangers. Does that not make you a serial killer?
So I didn't kill them every day, did I? Did I go out there every day and say, I'm going to kill? If I did, there would
Well,
be
no,
hundreds.
it took you 12 months.
Yeah.
Her abusive childhood, years of homelessness, and explosive rage made her one of the most complex and feared figures in true crime. Monster, 2003, brought her story to the screen. Charlize Theron's haunting transformation captured both Wuornos' violence and her broken humanity. A performance so powerful, it won her the Academy Award for Best Actress. Number 6, Criminal Cases of Yvonne Milat and Bradley Murdoch. The Australian outback in the 1990s was meant to be a backpacker's paradise, vast, wild, and full of adventure. But that dream soon turned into terror. Even Milat, later dubbed the backpacker murderer, lured hitchhikers into the Belanglo State Forest, where at least 7 young travelers were brutally murdered. His crimes shocked the world, with crime scene photos and police searches splashed across global headlines. Around the same time, Bradley Murdoch abducted and likely killed British tourist Peter Falconio in 2001. Falconio's girlfriend, Joanne Lees, managed a miraculous escape, her testimony later becoming key evidence at trial. Together, their crimes fueled worldwide panic and cast a dark shadow over Australia's image as a safe travel destination. The horror inspired Wolf Creek, 2005, where carefree travelers find themselves hunted by a sadistic killer in the remote outback. With its gritty realism, brutal violence, and echoes of real-life cases, the film struck a nerve and became a cult classic, leaving audiences uneasy about just how much of the terror was fiction and how much was horrifyingly real. Number 5, the BTK killer case, which inspired the Clovehitch Killer movie. What if the monster you feared was the one you trusted most, the one you thought you could even pray to? Dennis Rader lived as a family man and church leader while secretly killing 10 people. He bound, tortured, and murdered his victims, then taunted police with letters signed BTK, short for Bind, Torture, Kill.
For 3 whole decades, he would taunt the police and press in a perverted game of cat and mouse.
His capture in 2005 revealed how terrifyingly ordinary he appeared. A man who seemed so harmless, even devout, had lived a double life of horror. That chilling duality inspired The Clovehitch Killer, a film that reimagines this story through a teenage boy who begins to suspect his own father is hiding a monstrous past. It's a quiet, unnerving film that reflects the true horror of BTK, warning us that evil doesn't always come from strangers, but can live within the walls of our own homes. Number 4, the case of John Bunting. 11 victims, bodies stuffed into barrels. These were the crimes of John Bunting, the man behind the Snowtown murders. Between 1992 and 1999, John Bunting and his accomplices carried out a series of 11 murders across South Australia. The case shocked the nation when, in May 1999, police opened a disused bank vault in the small town of Snowtown. Inside, they discovered 6 bodies sealed in barrels, evidence of years of killings now known as the bodies in barrels murders.
It was around this time last night that Kevin Matthews discovered his wife murdered in their West Lakes home.
What was uncovered in Snowtown sent shockwaves across the nation, turning a quiet community into the setting of Australia's darkest crime story. This nightmare was later brought to the screen in The Snowtown Murders, a film that doesn't shy away from the raw brutality of the crimes. It drags viewers into the bleak world where Bunting's influence thrived, reminding us that danger can hide in the routines of ordinary life. Number 3, the Robert Hansen case, the real story behind the frozen ground, 2013. By day, he appeared as a quiet Anchorage baker. By night, he hunted women like wild game. In the 1970s and 80s, Alaska, Robert Hansen, nicknamed the Butcher Baker, lured women, many of whom were sex workers or exotic dancers, into remote wilderness areas. He released them into the bush before hunting them with a .223 Ruger Mini 14 rifle and sometimes a hunting knife. In 1983, 17-year-old Cindy Paulson narrowly survived Hansen's brutal hunt. She escaped his car and ran for help. Later, her testimony became the crucial breakthrough that finally exposed him. Hansen eventually confessed to at least 17 murders, though authorities suspect the true total may be higher. He was ultimately sentenced to life plus 461 years in prison with no chance of parole. This inspired the movie The Frozen Ground, which dramatizes his crimes, with John Cusack as Hansen and Nicolas Cage as the detective racing to stop him. The film shows both the horror of his sadistic hunts and the desperate courage of a survivor who finally exposed him. Number 2, the case of Jeffrey Dahmer. What drives someone to kill and to even eat their victims? Let's dig into the twisted mind of Jeffrey Dahmer, the man who murdered 17 young men, keeping body parts as trophies. In the 1980s, Dahmer lured men back to his apartment, drugged them, and carried out horrific acts: cannibalism, necrophilia, and dismemberment.
I was branching out. That's when the cannibalism started, eating of the heart and the arm muscle. It was a way of making me feel that they were a part of me.
His killing spree finally ended in 1991 when one victim escaped and flagged down police, leading to Dahmer's arrest. But the warning signs began much earlier. As a teenager, Dahmer collected roadkill, dissected animals, and displayed disturbing behavior at school. He was isolated, awkward, and classmates noticed, but no one imagined the horrors ahead. The film My Friend Dahmer explores these years through the eyes of his classmate Durf Backdurf. It doesn't show the murders. Instead, it reveals how an ordinary-looking teenager was already walking a dark path. From a shy, awkward boy to one of history's most infamous killers, Dahmer's story is a grim reminder of how early warning signs can go unnoticed, a real-life horror that still haunts us today. Number 1, the case of Ted Bundy. Handsome, charming, intelligent, Ted Bundy seemed like the last person you'd ever suspect. But behind that perfect smile was one of the most cold-blooded lady killers in American history. In the 1970s, Bundy confessed to killing more than 30 young women across multiple states, though the real number is believed to be far higher. Using his charm as bait, he lured women in before revealing the monster beneath. His reign of terror finally ended in 1978 when he was caught in Florida. At trial, forensic dentistry became the turning point. A bite mark on a victim matched his crooked teeth, a chilling piece of evidence that sealed his fate. With the case against him undeniable, Bundy received multiple death sentences. After years of appeals, justice was served on January 24, 1989, when he was executed in the electric chair. Photographs from the trial, his mugshots, and news footage revealed the haunting contrast: a man who looked every bit the celebrity, yet in truth was a cold-blooded predator. This disturbing duality has since been captured on screen. The film, Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile, 2019, starring Zac Efron, portrayed Bundy not only as a killer, but through the eyes of his girlfriend, the man who seemed incapable of such horrors.